Good morning and good evening for all the participants joining from all around the corner. Well, we are back. IFSS is back with its regular programs on wisdom session and the master session. So we had a wonderful My Time program last month. It was really great to see many participating. And back to our master session. And today we have a very, very wonderful master to take forward this session. Well, before I begin, let me give you a small introduction about IFSS. IFSS stands for Indian Federation of Spiritual Scientists. This was seeded by late Brahmashri Pitama Patriji and late Indu Jain. So they had started this noble platform, and this platform is typically meant to exchange the thoughts, exchange the ideas, exchange the wisdom from various masters and school of thoughts and organizations around with a scientific temperament. So spirituality and science, we want to bring them together, and it's a platform to exchange this wisdom for the benefit of everyone. So today's master session is going to be really amazing, and we have a wonderful topic to discuss today. Well, the person who's going to take forward this session is really amazing. Is Dr. Sai Krupa Sagar. We all fondly call him Sagar sir. He is an avid meditator, mind explorer, and a technology business leader. He has worked in different corporates at different levels, and now he has dedicated his life through teaching and speaking, writing on meditation and spiritual science. He has trained umpteen number of people. He has coached thousands of meditators across the globe. He has traveled a lot. He's a very familiar face in YouTube, and he's a very familiar face in Pyramid Valley International. He's the managing trustee of Pyramid Valley International. He has seeded a lot of programs. Some of the classic programs are Stillness Retreat. If you have experienced this, it's really, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, please do check out on PVI website to see when is the next Stillness Retreat. It's a 7-day program, and it's a life-transforming event altogether. We have learned a lot from him. He is a mentor for almost every one of us. Well, today is going to take us through a beautiful, a book, Mind to Matter by Dawson Church. I think if there is anybody apart from Dawson Church himself who actually have deep dived into this book, in my knowledge, I think it is Sagar sir. I mean, he has extensively researched about this subject and this book. He has taken classes on this subject, very subject, quite a number of times. And every time I hear it, there is a lot to learn, and that learning never ends. There are multiple reasons. One is it's a vast ocean. Mind itself, we all know how vast it is. Second thing is, this is not an easy book to read. I mean, honestly, let me admit that. I tried reading it, but it isn't that easy to read, just like another book. It needs a lot of perseverance and a lot of patience to go through this book. And I think this is one question I would like to ask before sir begins. You have simplified this book so beautifully, and dissected this book and made it so simple that people like us, maybe, I don't know if it is laziness or if it is the lack of that patience to go through that completely. It's really a volume book. I mean, I know you come from a research background. It's not going to be tough for you. It's going to be easy. But someday I'm definitely want to win reading this book. So I really want to take some, advice from you on this. And then, of course, we're all eager to listen to this yet another session. We never get bored about this topic, because this is something which is it affects on a day-to-day basis. And I'm not going to take much time on this. Let me now invite Dr. Sai Krupa Sagar sir. Welcome, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Sunil. Thanks, Sunil. So obviously, I think given me and my understanding of the book a lot more credit than I think it's due. But yeah, I think it's an interesting book. We'll walk through that. And I think a lot of stories inside, a lot of case studies inside. We'll talk about it. But first of all, I think welcome to everyone. Good evening in India, and I think good morning and good afternoon elsewhere. I think on this IFSS platform, I'm very fortunate. I'm very happy to be talking about this topic called the mind to matter, right? And though I'll be using the book as the basis, the mind to matter by Dawson Church, there are a lot of other stories that we're taking from other related books that talk about quantum science and neuroscience. So the other authors, pretty much the other books of authors that we've taken, Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? And then there is a book called Altered Traits, A Science of Meditation, right? And then there is another book also called, I think, Stealing Fire. And in fact, Dawson Church also has written another book following this very recent book. It's called The Bliss Brain. So it's an expanded form, but it isn't as, as eye-opening as Mind to Matter. So it's a follow-on book, but then it has its own good things as well then. All right. So should we get started?
Yes, sir. We're all waiting. Yes.
Okay. Wonderful.
We can.
Yeah. So I think I'll just be talking about quite a few things from the book. The book is pretty vast. In fact, a couple of years ago, we did almost 2 weekends. I think 2 weekends or 2 days twice. Right. So it took us 4 into 2.5 hours. I think half an hour was meditation. So almost 8 to 9 hours to talk about the book in whole. Right. Cover the whole aspects of it. So today it will probably be a lot more shorter. So we'll focus on some things for 1 hour and then quickly dive into a bit of meditation and then open it up for Q&A. So let me just start off. Okay, so wonderful, dear friends. Let's dive into it. So first, I'd want to talk about what do we really mean by mind to matter, and then talk about the science behind it. So that is what I want to do primarily, and how towards the end how meditation fits in to the whole part, right? So the first case story goes this way, right? So this is a case study from one of Joe Dispenza's book. It was a study done by U.S. university where they studied 30 people over a 12-week period, and all they asked them to do was one group of 15. They asked them to kind of increase, in fact, just move their fingers like this physically. And the other group of people, the control group, so what they asked them to do was, instead of actually physically doing it, they asked them to just imagine doing it. They just imagine doing the same thing. So one set of people actually physically exercised the hand, the finger muscles, whereas the other set of people just imagine doing it. So at the end of the 12-week period, so the group that actually did the physical exercises increased the strength of their finger by 53%. Whereas the group that just imagined exercising the fingers increased their finger strength by 35%, which is remarkable, right? So just by thought, this kind of illustrates how just by thought you're able to create matter. What is the matter we created? We created muscles in the fingers, right? So just a very small example of how thinking created matter. The bodies changed as if they were having that physical experience and external reality. But only thing is they experienced it in their minds, and the minds changed their body. All right. So similarly, there is another case story. Again, this is from another book where this is a case story from Japan. Right. So 2 sets of people were asked to, 2 groups of patients with type 2 diabetes. All of them were dependent on insulin. So they were segregated into 2 groups. One group was asked to watch a boring lecture. The other group was asked to watch a very humorous presentation or a comedy show. a show of a comedy, right? So each of the group had their fasting blood sugar level tested, right? All the vitals of their blood sugar tested. And the test subjects then ate a delicious meal with the blood glucose level check. And then they were asked to watch this comedy show versus a boring lecture. So again, at the end of it, so when the show and the lecture got over, so they measured the insulin levels. So the remarkable findings are those who watched the lecture, the boring lecture, had their blood sugar levels rise 123 mg per dl, high enough that they need insulin to keep themselves out of the danger zone. Whereas in the joyful group, which was listening to this comedy show and exercising their laughter muscles and everything, so they, after dinner, blood sugar levels rose only about half the amount. So that means around 60 mg per dl, right? So the same, they went through the same checks, they went through the same thing, but only thing that was different was one was looking at a humorous thing, the other one was looking at a boring lecture. And the researchers measured several things apart from the sugar levels. They also measured what other changes had happened, right? And what they figured out was even the gene level expressions. So for the diabetics that were watching the comedy show, they altered 23 different gene expressions, all right? Whereas the group that watched the boring lecture, so they didn't alter as many gene expressions as. So the genes triggered the additional insulin to keep their blood sugar in control. Whereas the people who watched the boring lecture couldn't trigger that neurochemicals or the insulin, right? So the genetic variations allowed their bodies to naturally regulate the genes responsible for processing the blood sugar. So what this shows, what it is here, they were not thinking, they were feeling. One was feeling joyful, the other was feeling bored and sad and oh my God, they're thinking, when will this get over, right? This feeling created matter. In this case, the matter was not as gross as a muscle or a skin, but it was more the neurochemicals or the chemicals that were generated in the body. In this case, it was hormone, insulin, right? So just feeling, the only thing was different. So this shows how thinking and feeling create matter inside our body. To understand the science behind it, before I get to another important component called energy, I just want to quickly go through a brief biology class for all of us. I'm sure all of you are aware of this. So if you look at our brain, there are these three important parts of the brain. So for this discussion, we'll just focus on those three. So the outer layer of the brain is neocortex, the middle layer is the limbic brain, and the bottom layer is part of the reptilian brain. So the neocortex is the one on top of our head, right? So it has different parts. There are different parts of the brain responsible for thinking, analyzing, speech production, different parts of the brain responsible for hearing, different parts of the brain for auditory processing. There's one other part responsible for touch, responsible for balance and all that, right? And then there is the limbic system, which is the middle layer of the brain, which is the emotional center. The limbic system is also called the emotional brain. So it has it is direct ties to memory, it has direct ties to feelings, and it has direct ties to emotional responses, as you see here. And it also controls some of the body sensations like temperature, hunger, fatigue, sleep, and all that. Right? Anytime we become angry, anytime we react emotionally, or anytime we react in response to a memory of some bad incident or good incident, this is the limbic system that kind of gets triggered. So that is the part of the brain that is working in us. So, and then in our body, as I mentioned, there are different neurochemicals. Some of you may have heard about this. So there is this one neurochemical called serotonin, which is more responsible for our mood. If you are in good mood, there is a flush of serotonin flushing through our body. If you are in bad mood, there is not enough serotonin. Similarly, dopamine. the moment that you get something that you want, that you've been craving for, there is a flush of dopamine that gets released in our body. You've been tired, working all along, and you want that fresh air, you go have a cup of coffee, that's dopamine. You meet a person you've been missing for a long time, that's immediately as soon as you meet, there is a flush of dopamine. And similarly, oxytocin is more a hug drug. It basically generates friendly feelings. And then endorphin is generally a pain, just a feel-good chemical. So just like we have this happy neurochemicals, and then there's another neurochemical called Anandamide, right? And in India, we know Ananda is bliss, Ananda is happiness. So Anandamide, which is called the bliss molecule, so that is another type of molecule that gets generated during deep meditation or any activity that triggers bliss. All right? So just like we have this happy neurochemicals that makes you feel good, and anytime you feel bad, anytime you're stressed out, just like the people who were watching the boring lecture, or anytime you have that confrontation with a difficult person in your family, or it could be a difficult friend, or it could be a boss at work. So these are the stress-causing neurochemicals. So all of us know cortisol gets released and adrenaline gets released. These are the two things that are very harmful. Every time you have a very fearful thought, very anger-generating thought, every time you judge, every time you feel bad, every time you repent, right? Every time you're afraid of losing your identity, every time you feel fear, then these are the neurochemicals that get flooded, right? So, and we all know the nervous system. So our nervous system at the core, there is something called a parasympathetic nervous system and the brain and the sympathetic nervous system. So we talked about the brain, and the brain gets connected to our nervous system along the spinal and the entire body. So the sympathetic nervous system is the one, we call it as the fight or flight system. Anytime we are afraid, anytime you're fearful, anytime you get into danger zone, what happens? Our heartbeat increases, right? And our muscles get stiffer, and everything else related to anything, any energy related to digestion and all other activities that are not critical, energy gets diverted into pumping of blood, increasing breathing, accelerating the heartbeat, and then dilating the pupil. So we are ready to, the blood goes to all the places which allow you to fight or run from the place. For running, where do we need the muscles or the energy? It's in our calf muscles, and it's also kind of to our muscles across the body. In contrast to it, ideally in homeostasis, that is the balance that all human beings are supposed to have. So that is the rest and digest state, which triggers your parasympathetic nervous system. In that is your natural resting state. Anytime you're sleeping, anytime you're listening to music, anytime you're relaxing, anytime you're having a casual conversation with a friend you know, or anytime you're watching a good movie, right? So this is where your heart-based low and deep breathing, your decreased heart rate, and that is when all your digestive and immune systems start working well. So you need to give it, all your healing happens then, right? So that is the natural state. Ideally, we'll have to be spending more time on the rest and digest, so that digestion happens properly, our immune system gets built properly, the digestion and what are they going to say? Healing happens properly. So all that is part of the rest and digest and fight or flight. Ideally, we have to be more in rest and digest, and then anytime there is a danger, we keep moving into fight or flight. That is all. But unfortunately, today's situation is that most of the time, 80% of the time, we are in fight, or always looking at the bad comment that someone has done, or thinking about whether your boss will tell something, or your peer will tell something, or your family member will tell something, right? Or your kid will tell something. So we're always in that danger zone. We're always ready to fight, always ready to react, or somehow defend ourselves. So that is the playing part. So, and this is what happens anytime there are stress hormones. So I'm getting to the part how just thought creates the hormones in our body, right? So if you look at it, anytime there is a negative emotion. So let's say this slide illustrates anger. Anytime there is an anger thought that causes anger, right? There is a whole chain of things that happen where it talks to your different parts of your brain and ultimately releases the neurochemicals. We just saw the stress hormones or cortisol and adrenaline. So it releases it talks with the adrenal glands and releases the cortisol and adrenaline, which in turn do all the work that the fight or flight response needs, increasing your heartbeat, increasing your breathing and all that stuff. And in that time, it does not allow your regular genes or regular body to be working, right? So, and anytime there is stress, this is what happens. Every time the stress could be pain, stress could be illness, stress could be negative thoughts, emotions, medications, right? And there are internal stresses, there are external stresses, but ultimately it results in increased cortisol levels, adrenaline levels, increased inflammation, non-working of your pituitary gland, non-working of your hormones, digestive problems, your muscle problems, all that happen during that time, right? So what happens? Why is this mechanism? It's kind of a deeper slide. I'll just quickly talk about it. So the chart that you see on the left-hand side, this is what happens from thoughts to your health of your body, right? What happens? We all know our brain has umpteen number of neurons, and there is this neural networks that form. Every time we think a thought, there are neurons firing in our brain, right? And it generates something called a neurochemical called neuropeptides. And that's a very specific chemical messenger that the brain generates, and it sends it to your cells in the body. The neuropeptide looks for appropriate receptor sites, and then it delivers the message to the body's hormonal centers, your pituitary gland, your thyroid gland, and different glands. And then your body's hormonal centers get the message to the cell's DNA, right? And the DNA then expresses proteins. The DNA generates the appropriate protein, and proteins are like the expression of life. Proteins give you, for example, insulin generation is actually generated by a protein. Insulin is nothing but a type of protein, and that is generated by a specific set of genes that are triggered by those specific DNA. So proteins are the building blocks of life, and the body is a protein producing factory. So muscle cells make muscle proteins. Skin cells make skin proteins. The color of your hair, whether it is white or black, it is because of the protein, right? So if you have one type of protein, your color of the hair is black. If you have a different type of protein, the color of hair is white. And you don't generate the right proteins, the hair falls, right? So similarly, immune cells make antibodies. Their proteins. Stomach cells make stomach proteins called enzymes. We all know we need digestive enzymes. And most cells make body-making proteins, and genes are the way we make them. So the way proteins get made is this chart that you see here, right? There are the specific neurochemicals. They send signals to the cell trigger the DNA trigger the genes, and then genes generate the proteins. And proteins control our immune system, our digest our food, heal our wounds, catalyze chemical reactions. They support the muscle and mass of our bodies. They provide the elegant molecules to communicate between cells. Ultimately, we are the way we are. We look the way we look. We behave the way we look. We behave the way we do purely because of protein. Both they trigger, they kind of build our physical body as well as what is inside, the functioning of the body, as I said. So we just saw the example of insulin, the diabetes patients. All right. So this is how the thoughts and feelings in those two case stories created matter. The first thing I kept on imagining that I'm exercising those fingers, and ultimately what happened, it generated the right proteins for me to build muscles in my fingers. And the second case, normally I was having some kind of the boring lecture people, right? They didn't generate the right hormones, the right neurochemicals to trigger the generation of insulin. So they ended up having more of sugar level compared to the people who are looking at the joyful comedy show, right? So they were in a different state of mind. They were in this, what do you call this? In the rest and digest mode. The first set of people were in this, oh my God, when will the boring lecture end? Whereas the second set of people who are looking at the comedy show where in the rest and digest, the body started healing and it started generating the right neurochemicals, generating insulin, taking care of the body. So that is how thinking or feeling. Feeling is again generated by thoughts. It creates matter in our body. It's again a wonderful illustration. A lot of stories, a lot of evidences in all the neuroscience. Nowadays, all neuroscientists talk about that. So next thing is we spoke about thought. We spoke about feeling. The most important thing that I want to talk about, the energy fields. We are electromagnetic bodies, right? So if you look at our brains, there is something called neurofields. So the whole brain sees with electrical activity. So that is why if you see there is this EEG, people use EEG to tap the electrical signals. So I showed the picture of the brain, right? So the brain has different parts. So people are able to measure the activity in different parts of your brain, whether you're thinking, whether you're feeling, and all that stuff using this. So as neurons fire, electrical currents run through them, and this creates an electromagnetic field. MRI, EEG measure these fields. And then all our cells, right, living tissues, cells, they emit photons. They emit light particles. So there are some specific, Clarion camera photography that actually detects the aura in your body. So that it detects energy flow in your body. It detects how illumined you are, right? So there are these neurofields, and then there is also our whole body, right? The electromagnetic field of the heart. So there is light and electricity and magnetism create the energy fields in our body. And then largest field of the Earth, we know there are lunar cycles, there are the solar cycles. That's why we say full moon energies are different, right? And then the Earth emits energies in different forms, right? So they also have a large influence on our body. And then the book also talks about, and I think it's also known in our Upanishads, our body's electromagnetic field extends about 5 meters out. And every cell has something called a microtubule. That is the antenna that is always receiving signals. In fact, I read about an illustration somewhere which talks about, so today what happens, your television in your house takes in energies and taking the signals from the tower, takes in the signals from somewhere, and then it transmutes that into audio-visual images, which is another form of energy, right? Similarly, our brain and our body constantly keeps looking at energies. What are the energies? Energy is nothing but the thoughts and emotions of the other person, which you keep on receiving it. So that is why if you walk into a room where there were a few youngsters who just finished a wonderful, enthusiastic dance performance, you feel the vibrant energy there. If you walk into a room where people were so sad or crying, or they were undergoing some distress, you will feel the dullness and energy. There's nothing else to do. So that the antenna or cells are made that way, right? Each cell of your body has its own electromagnetic field. Molecules are fields. Molecules, proteins are shaped positive or negative based on that, right? So our whole body is an electromagnetic field. In fact, a photoelectromagnetic field, because it is both light, electrical energies, and magnetic energy, right? And that is how you detect even your heart, just like EEG for the brain. There's something called ECG, which we all know, right? So before I go, so the energy fields form the templates around which matter develops. So in fact, there's an example in the book. It talks about anytime there is a cut in the finger, the way it heals is first there is an energy field around it. You can measure it using energy devices, and then matter develops around it. So this scientist called Harold Sexton Burr, so he did a lot of experiments on energy and its effect on body. Again, the book talks about quite a few, there's one section on it. So he did around 10,000 measurements on mice having cancer. So what he detected was, even before the cancer appeared in the body, the energy field of that particular part changed. It was abnormal compared to a normal mice. And in a path-breaking study in 1947, so what again, he did the study on women having uterine cancer. What he found out was, for women having uterine cancer, the electromagnetic charge around the uterus was different compared to people who did not have. And there is a normal flow, right? So, okay. So based on that, he applied that findings to a research. He just signed up with the hospital, and then he started looking at the uterine scans of thousands of women. And he was able to detect, he was able to tell that particular person has a probability of cancer happening even before that actual cancer actually manifested in the body, right? The person was healthy, and there was no, if you go and tell that person, say you have, you have a potential, your cancer is developing, none of the usual diagnostic tools showed that, right? And then the person was normal and healthy, but after a while, cancer developed. So it kind of illustrates, I mean, it says this wonderful statement from there. They used to predict uterine cancer occurrence. The cancer showed up in the field of energy before it showed up in matter. So energy fields have an influence on matter, right? And again, thought energies. And that's what, if you are in a place that is too depressed, if you are in a place that is always buzzing with unhappiness, always buzzing with people talking. So if you are in that place, the whole energy itself is a lot more harmful. Whereas when you go to places of worship, places where there is huge congregation doing the same thing at the same time. When you go to a place of worship, everyone comes there to worship. There are no thought, the thought fields or the energy fields of thought are not distracted. Everything is coherent. So you'll feel peaceful just by going there, right? Similarly, we've seen in our pyramids that are built for meditation. When people come there and sit there, it is group meditation, right? So people don't come there for some other purpose. So the energy fields are concentrated there. That aligns with the cosmic energy fields. We talked about that. And then there is a resonant energy. In fact, there's a chapter that talks about Earth's resonant energy and things like that. So you get aligned and you feel a lot more peaceful. You feel a lot more aligned. So energy fields form templates around which matter develops. So what does this imply? So this implies you have the ability to create matter by just changing the energy field, right? So, and our body, again, very magical. So if you look at our body, it generates, out of the 37 trillion cells, 810,000 cells are being replaced every day. And that's this thing. Yeah. Replaced every second, sorry. And the body produces 1 trillion blood cells per day. And a lifetime of a blood cell is 4 months. And then there are billions of neurons. And the brain replaces at least 1 neuron per second. And heart regenerates 3 times in a lifetime. So in fact, Deepak Chopra has this magnificent statistic. So you are not the same person you were when you are a 3-year-old, when you are 50 years old, right? So you are a different person, physical, right? Mentally, you probably carry the same memories, but nothing in your body is the same that you were when you are a 3-year-old, right? Except probably for memory and mind. That is why mind holds a deep significance, right? So these cells, this matter in our body is being created every second. Cells are being created, neurons are being created, right? Matter is being created, your muscle, tissues, proteins, which we just spoke about it. Your heart, your brain changes, your heart changes physically. Now, similarly, as we saw, the body is a factory of cells. Our body is a program to heal, and healing is what helps. Eating high quality food produces quality proteins. We all know that. There is enough literature on vitamins and this thing, right? So it all depends on our body. So just like you have a car, a high quality car is made up of high quality parts. If you put in low quality parts in a car, you can't expect a car to be functioning at high quality. Very similar, all our parts of the body, right, from the proteins to the cells, to the tissue, to the muscles, the bones. So everything needs to be working properly for us to be functioning efficiently, for us to be using our this one efficiently, right? So cells replicate energy fields by our bodies, right? And if you look at, so when the cells, we just saw how our body gets regenerated so many times. So there is a difference between whether your body is being regenerated using energy fields of distress, energy fields of sorrow, energy fields of sadness. They are different frequency. Whereas if the cells are bathed in energy of love, appreciation, kindness, then they have the right neurochemicals happening, right? The type of energy in which the cell regeneration happens determines the biological outcome, whether it is generating the right, whether it is expressing the right genes, expressing the right proteins, right? Inferior energy results in inferior molecules, just like inferior parts results in a very bad quality car. So the point here is we regenerate our body millions of times every day, right? The different parts of our body, and then we regenerate our whole body through several times during a lifetime. So the question for us is that regeneration, should it happen in a very positive, vibrant energy field, high frequency energy field, or should it happen in a low frequency energy field besieged with thoughts, fears, judgments, regrets, unhappiness, right? So it's our choice. So whether it is bathed in positive emotional fields or whether it is bathed in negative emotional fields, right? And when you bathe your body with your mind with uplifting thoughts, information, and ideas, you're growing your cells in positive energy fields. The 810,000 new cells that we are creating every second, right? If it is bathed in the microwaves of love, kindness, positive emotion, then they're being shaped by the field. So they will grow right. And when consciousness shifts from negative to positive emotions, obviously the whole body starts working fine. The body working fine gives you good health, then obviously good thoughts and good minds, right? So maintaining positive states for weeks results in trillions of new cells shaped by the positive state. Whereas when you think about the bad stuff, it only creates a stress. If you are 70% of the time, if you are in fight or flight mode, then the body regenerates. So you're creating the cells. Not just the chart that I showed you. It's not just the bad thoughts and bad emotions creating those insulin and the hormone deficiency. It's also your energy field. It impacts others, and that also is not allowing your regular working of the body to happen correctly, right? So that is where that's what stress causes. So to be happy, the container of your mind should be filled with happy inputs. Okay, so here is another case story I want to talk about. So this is, he talks about the case story of Adeline, who is an uterine cancer patient. And I believe she was diagnosed with uterine cancer in her early 30s, and it spread throughout her body. And then doctors suggested a surgery followed by chemotherapy and radiation. And they rated her chances of survival pretty small. But Adeline did not want to subject her body to the harshness of surgery and chemotherapy and all that, right? So she took the quantum route. So she totally isolated herself into a natural resort. She took long walks in the forest. She took long baths. She ate the healthiest diet possible, meditated every day, read inspirational books, kept her energy field very positive and vibrant, terminated a relationship with people whose company was upsetting to her, right? So she cut off all the negative thought fields. She ate the right positive food. She was in a positive environment, right? Apart from, and then her walks became longer. So this is what she just was in a different environment, right? And then when she went back to hospital for a checkup 9 months later, the doctors could not find any trace of cancer in her body, right? So miraculous, we call it miraculous, but there is science behind it. That is what is the neuroscience and quantum science behind it, right? She changed her energy of her physical environment by immersing herself in nature. She filled her mind with positive images, right? Like the healing stars, uplifting thoughts from inspirational books. She ate food with the elevated energetic signature, right? She cut off from the negative energy caused by her friends. And then I think looks like bathing daily, long baths daily also has a electromagnetic signature, right? It generates free radicals or electrons that oxidizes your body and prevents cell degeneration. So all this positive healing and energy that happened is helping her. It is exactly what happened to Adeline could also happen to any of us. Positive environment cause change in matter, right? The positive, we saw, thoughts create matter, feelings create matter, positive energy fields create matter, positive environment, which create those positive energy fields, create matter. And it for us to decide whether we are using the positive energy or the negative energies, because that is what we're doing. We're taking, it's a conscious choice for us every moment. The last set of experiment that we want to quickly talk about is on water. And the book has a very good section on it. So there is this the scientist from Germany who did this experiment in his lab. And he asked different people to just take water in a syringe and then pour on this glass slab. And then they analyzed the droplets of water poured by different people. So each of us could be pouring, right? And then, so what they found is, if you look at this chart, the top part of it is all done by one person. The next second row was done by another person. Third row was done by another person. If you look at it as for that particular person, the droplets had a signature of energy. They looked at, analyzed it. If you look at the picture, that shows a pattern. Whereas the pattern is not the same across people, right? It is unique for a person. So what they're saying is this energy field carried by you is as unique as your fingerprint, right? So each one of our energy fields are different, but I carry the same energy field throughout. So that is what that experiment determines. And think about it. Your body is 70% water, and you are influencing the water in your energy through your positive thoughts or negative thoughts. In fact, here is another case story where it shows how just the positive or negative thoughts influence water. So there is again another study by in Tokyo where 2,000 people focused positive intentions of love. They sent loving thoughts. They sent affectionate thoughts. They sent kindness, right, to water samples kept in electromagnetically shielded rooms in Petaluma, California. So California is the west coast of US and Tokyo is far east. Right from there, they just send positive energies to that atrium. I mean, thinking about that particular water samples kept there without, they're all again electromagnetically shielded. And then without them knowing, there was also a set of samples kept in other locations. So at the end of the time period, I've not written the time period here. Okay, it's not here. So at the end of the time period, there were 100 independent judges who went and analyzed the crystals of ice formed by condensing that water. So what they found is the water that that received all the positive thoughts and intentions, the shape of crystals formed by those was far more beautiful than the shape of crystals formed by water, which was not given that positive treatment, right? So just positive thoughts traveling across thousands of miles was able to influence the energy field in water. So this just shows that, right? So we're talking about millions, thousands of miles, but how about the 70% water in our body? So definitely our thoughts, our feelings, energy fields, the things that we are exposed to, everything has a positive impact on our body. 70% water, right? Negative thoughts, negative emotions, different treatment of water, right? Positive thoughts, positive emotions, beautiful treatment of water. So immerse your mind in positive energy. That's the whole point of this book. Immerse your mind in positive energy, positive emotions. At least 70% of the matter, 70% of what the body has water, that brings your body into an elevated state, right? So net, our mind creates matter. So energy builds matter. We are immersed in energy fields, and we have a conscious choice of choosing the energy fields that we are in, whether we are exposed to positive energies or negative energies. So healing, we spoke about, or we talked about some of the examples where a person exposed to just positive energies or positive environment accelerated her healing, right? So everything is energy. And we know we spoke about thoughts, we spoke about emotions. That is the equation. Thoughts plus emotions dictates our energy. And right, emotions are nothing but energy in motion. Right? So you can feel the energy moving from different parts, energy in motion. Right? Everything is energy. The thoughts begin it, your emotions amplify it, and your actions, whether you react with anger or you do something, you respond with some different behavior. Your behavior is a result of a mindfulness, right? So the challenge here is, yeah, Sai, you've been telling, change your thoughts, be positive, change, do not get angry. It's all that is fine. But how do I do it? So there are two ways. So one is cognitively. So every time I get a thought, oh, okay, so this is anger. Why am I thinking about it? So let me change my thought, right? Every time I make a judgment, oh, why am I judging? So you are conscious of your thought, you are conscious of the feeling, right? You're becoming aware of every thought and feeling. So this is the mindfulness concept. If you look at it, a lot of people practice open-eyed mindfulness. I mean, we talk about mindfulness in the East in a different manner. So mindfulness in the West is you can be mindful even with your open eyes. That means there is a huge cognitive load, so you are in the present moment and things like that. So you are conscious of every thought. Or the second option is you elevate your consciousness. Right? So how do you elevate your consciousness? Through different practices like meditation. Right? So when you elevate your consciousness, you're elevating your consciousness from being at low frequency, which is, in fact, Dawson Church, what I think, there's a guy named, forgot. He did the Hawkins. So the gentleman who created the consciousness map of consciousness. So he has created a map of consciousness where all the negative energies are of low scores, and all the positive energies like love, like expression, like communication, like gratitude, forgiveness, all that are higher. So you elevate your consciousness, and then automatically the thoughts that you think, the emotions that you feel, the feeling that you create are all positive. And for either of these, meditation opens up the gap between thoughts. Meditation elevates your consciousness, right? So what happens to the brain in meditation? In the next 5 minutes, I'll just quickly focus on the brain. So we know, now we know positive energy changes matter. Now we are looking at meditation as a tool, as an instrument to keep us in positive energy or positive energy field around us all the time, right? So we spoke about the structure of the meditation, structure of the brain, sorry. Okay, so quickly another case story, again, very popular case story in the book. So there was this gentleman named Graham Phillips, an Australian astrophysicist and TV journalist, who was very skeptical about meditation. He went through this study where he was made to do mindfulness meditation for 8 weeks, along with some dietary control. And so before he started the 8-week trip, or 8-week journey inward, so they did all the physical and mental and emotional tests on him, including things like memory tests, response time, cognitive tests, right, including a physical body, your heartbeat, heart rate, blood pressure, and everything. And they measured his vitals, both subtle and gross, so the physical and physiological biomarkers throughout the 8 weeks. And this is the result of it, right? So at the end of 8 weeks, see how mind creates matter. And then mind is, the change in mind is created matter. So 22.8% increase in the volume of the part that is responsible for emotional regulation. So we saw that in the brain picture that I showed, there is the middle brain, that emotional brain, the amygdala and hypothalamus, everything. So that part increased in volume. So it was able to better handle the emotions, right? And that resulted in better brain response. And the studies, the results show that better brain response, better memory, increased cognitive powers, increased behavioral abilities. And then the book talks a lot more about the data. And the brain was more energy efficient and more relaxed. So they did the EEG periodically. So it was functioning in a more coherent manner, all parts of the brain functioning instead of all your thoughts concentrating on just the prefrontal cortex, right? And changes in the brain all happened in just 8 weeks. So these are the different changes in the brain. They map which parts of the brain. This is the hypothalamus or the middle brain, the emotional brain, right? This is your cortex, different parts of your cortex, this is your amygdala. So the neural growth, the brain changed in just 8 weeks. And all these changes was without any drugs, without surgery, without supplements, vitamins. or any major life changes, just mindfulness meditation, a proper diet, and obviously some physical exercise. That is all, right? So just that meditation, and along with that, it all changed. So now, what do we mean by emotional regulation? That part is very important for us to move from negative to positive energy field, or moving from fight or flight mode to the rest or digest mode. So emotional regulation, whatever happens, the reaction that happens when someone triggers you at work, right? Someone annoys you. Suddenly you start looking at some noises, the problematic behavior of your children, your judgments about politicians and others, your own thoughts about how my body looks and functions, right? But winning and losing arguments, right? Anything external like the stock market. And we always have opinions, oh my God, today is so crowded, right? And the way your parents think, and they say, oh my God, why are they always annoying? Or why are they thinking like that? Why can't they think like me, right? So annoying relatives you interact with at a family gathering. So all these are emotional regulation. Anytime there is judgment, anytime there is resentment, anytime there is fear, anytime there is annoyance, right? You get annoyed, that means that part of the brain gets triggered. So think about it, 22 point, almost a quarter of that responses have come down purely because of mindfulness meditation over 8 weeks, right? So how does that happen? So as I talked about this, there are these EEG instruments that measure. So I'm just quickly talk about brain waves. We're not going to spend too much time on it. So all of you know, I think there were some other classes here during the main and the IFSS sessions. So we have these different brain waves. So as we go along, there are different parts. Again, this book talks about, I think the point here is the book talks very deeply about brain waves. And they did studies that track the set of biomarkers, very deep biomarkers, the number of circulating stem cells, which is a measure of immunity, the growth hormone levels, which get repressed during sleep, that indicate the quantity of sleep, and then free radicals, length of telomeres, aging markers. I think there is also a study, regular deep practice of meditation slows down your aging, right? So aging markers, and then again, immune systems, all this stuff, right? So quickly, there are different brain waves. There are, when the brain waves are at a particular frequency of 32 hertz to 100 hertz. So this is when we are deeply engrossed in some work, when we are in the zone, right? So they trigger a set of genes. There are a certain set of biomarker increases. There are a certain set of changes, increases DNA synthesis. Similarly, beta brain waves, which is what happens when you're anxious, when you are normally functioning, when you are normally thinking, things like when you are in negative emotions, right? Then this is very important. That's why I think. So stress causes abnormally large amplitudes of beta waves. Anytime you are fearful, anytime you are angry, right? Anytime you are pushed into a corner to defend yourself, right? There is a very sharp spike in this frequency waves. So the negative emotions produce large flare. The blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, thinking brain reduces. That is why when you're angry, you don't think properly, right? So we just react. Whereas when you're calm, when the blood flow happens to all parts of your body, you're able to feel, you're able to think the right thing, right? And then we talked about the cortisol and adrenaline hormones. So there is high beta when you're deeply anxious, deeply stressed out, that results in high cortisol levels. That is because of your negative thoughts. The state of monkey mind is also beta. The more stressed you are, we all age faster. Our body ages faster. Alpha is a state of relaxed alertness when we just about fall to sleep, when you're listening to that wonderful music, and when you are meeting with a loved one. So that is alpha. So alpha is a state of repair, repairs DNA, repairs gene expressions, and things like that. Theta is even deeper healing state. It's commonly observed in healers, commonly observed in REM sleep. And this is where a lot of DNA repair happens. So all those miraculous case studies where we saw cancer cells being killed, and then insulin, the proteins being generated more on at this level. So DNA repair, regeneration of humans. So healing happens faster, increased activity of antioxidants, and large reduction in lower back pain. So deep meditation, we've heard a lot of first-hand experiences where people go through meditation classes and then they get Sleep improving is like very straightforward. Within 1 week or 10 days of people practicing breath meditation, they talk about sleep improvement. They talk about different pains going away. And here is the science behind it. So similarly, delta brain waves are the deepest, right? They are like in deep sleep, they grow telomeres. The telomeres, these are the aging. That's what indicates aging. So they grow telomeres, which means reduce aging, washes away the toxic emotions stuck in the brain, improves nerve cell generation, right? This is where mystical experiences happen. There's a whole different section that we usually cover on day 2 of mind to matter sessions. So there is a mystical experiences, right? So all mystical experiences, deep transcendent experiences happen in this delta state. This is where people feel when meditators say that I totally lost sense of myself. I didn't even know where I was. I was floating. I got merged with a lot of stuff. This is the state that they are in, the delta brain waves, right? And these are the different brain patterns. At any point of time, if you measure the brain waves in your left hemisphere and right hemisphere, this is the anxious brain wave pattern, right? Where you are a lot of beta. Little SMR is the brain waves responsible for your subconscious or unconscious functions like your heartbeat, blood pressure, and all that, always there. Very less alpha, very less theta, very less delta, right? And then this is a normal brain pattern. We move between beta waves when we are anxious, fight or flight, and then when we are resting and digesting, so we are in slow, and when we have deep, good sleep, we are here, right? There was this biophysicist kid who over 20 years recorded the brainwave patterns of 4,000 people with different spiritual practices. When I say different spiritual practices, right from prayer to chanting to different rituals to yoga to exercises, those energy-based exercises to meditation. And then he's built an equipment called Mind Mirror. So he detected this normal brainwave pattern he found that all spiritual practices get people into a higher concentration of theta and delta. Right? And here is the awakened mind pattern, which is So he measured that all of them have this kind of awakened mind pattern. What is this awakened mind pattern? Very little of beta, right? Then there is alpha bridge. He's saying you need this alpha waves for you to jump into theta and delta. That's why he calls it as alpha bridge. And that is why when we start meditation, we'll start in a couple of minutes, is that we say relax your body. We play music. At any time you play music, there is alpha waves building up. That is a bridge. Patriji found that bridge to be very straightforward, right? Some people use breath work, pranayama, breathing exercises. Yoga Sutras talk about it, right? So you get into breath work, you listen to music, you do some exercise, you feel, you get into alpha, and then it's easy to get into theta and delta state. So that is the awakened mind pattern. So in a study of all these 4,000 people, this is the common mind pattern that he found, awakened mind pattern in people following the spiritual practices. All right. And I think we covered this. So brain waves express the field generated by emotion. And all these networks, again, the second book called Bliss Brain talks about the key brain networks that are responsible for focus and presence. And one is the emotional regulation network. So that's what this session we talked about specific parts of the brain, right? And we talked about the midbrain, the forebrain, and the emotional brain, right? The limbic brain and all that. Whereas the further finding was there are certain networks in our brain, not just one part, there are different parts of it that are responsible. That is why it's coined this as emotional regulation network, which is a network of components in the brain. Attention network, which is more related to our prefrontal cortex. That is why when we start focusing with more of energy out here. Then selfing control, which is basically the one that gives us a sense of self. And then the empathy control, which is more the compassion, the more about feeling kindness. So all these 4 networks are transformed by meditation. The second part of it talks about it. So we saw how mind creates matter. We saw how to change our mind, to master our mind. Meditation is one of the more simpler tools to kind of alter our mind. It changes our brain, it changes our physiology, and it also changes the energy fields surrounding our body. Meditation, the regular practice of meditation creates those positive energy fields that we saw is needed for our cells that get generated every second, for all our body parts to be repaired, regulating inflammation, boosting our immune system. We've been hearing all that on a lot of meditation classes, the benefits of meditation, but these books talk about the science behind it, why and how. And finally, so we have all these superpowers in us. It's for us to exercise these superpowers. Now we know we can create a new brain and state of body just through the right thoughts. And we create new cells in our body and new personality through the right feelings and emotions. It's up to us. And we can alter our state of consciousness through deep meditative practice by constant state of meditation, right? And then this is something we've not spoken about it. The book talks about it. So you can tap into the non-local mind. We talk about in meditation classes, definitely. It's as you spend more time in theta and delta, as you get into deep meditation, automatically there is a connection to non-local mind, right? So non-local mind is basically, that is the area of mystical experiences, that is the area of telepathy, that is the area of remote healing. Again, the book talks a bit about it. So you can tap into the non-local mind, so intuitions and synchronicities happen. That is not because of your mind, but you start feeling it, right? So ultimately, you can participate in this game of conscious creation through your intention, intuition, and intelligence. And the way that happens, the levers that allow you to create consciously is within view. The thoughts, the emotions, and the energy that results out of it. All right. So that is kind of a brief summary of what this book talks about. Again, the book talks a lot more. I think there is this whole mystical experience, talks about non-local fields, talks about one mind. And there's another gentleman called Larry Dossey, who's written a book called One Mind. It talks about how things work in a non-local manner, right? So we know the science behind meditation, why we need to do meditation, and what happens during meditation. So, my dear friends, so we learned a lot, at least in terms of why our thoughts and emotions and feelings are so important for our both physical, mental, and spiritual health. And we also know we create our own reality. When Patriji initially spoke the statement, that is what attracted most of us, including me, to this kind of moment, which empowers you, saying that you create your reality. How do we create our reality? That's what we saw through our thoughts, through our emotions, through the energy field surrounding us. Having the right state of mind, we are able to influence matter within our body as well as outside. So with that power in our hands and more wisdom now, we're all different beings compared to when we sat in this session an hour and a half ago, my dear friends. I hope it was useful. And again, as I said, there's nothing better than you sitting with the book and going through each one of the case studies and each one of the concepts inside that. If any of you need a lot more convincing, then that is the right way to do. Just grab a copy of the book and go through it, and or we could listen to the talks by Dawson Church as well on YouTube. With that, thank you very much, my dear friends, and thanks to IFSS team, Sunil, Manisha, and an entire IFSS team for giving me an opportunity to talk about my favorite topic, mind to matter, in this session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was indeed so captivating and so much of details. I know an hour session would not really do justice. I know you usually take series of workshops on this book, and we all will eagerly look forward to your next upcoming session. So friends, we are towards the end of the session. Now we'll take question and answers. In case if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat, or please feel free to raise the digital hand and we can unmute yourself to ask the question directly. how is breath work meditation and breath mindfulness meditation different? Which is better?
Yeah, so I don't think there is any kind of breath work meditation. There is breath work, which is more the pranayama, which is our deep breathing, right? Which is more consciously altering our breathing. So breath work gets you into the alpha state, right? So it gets you into that alpha state, and probably in some cases a bit of theta state, right? But getting deep into delta state of your brain, deeper consciousness. So in breath mindfulness meditation or any meditation that we talk about, you go all the way till the delta state. You go deep into your brain waves slow down. You go deeper. Whereas in breath work, it definitely gets you into a good feeling. It gets you into alpha and theta state. So that is it. That is a difference. Breath work is more conscious, whereas breath mindfulness meditation is just observing the breath. And both of them have different effects on your brain, body, and mind.
Vandana has posted a question. Master, usually I felt sleepy while meditation. Once I've been in thoughtless state meditation since 1 year, but no improvement.
Wonderful. So yeah, I think these are all the standard usual experiences during meditation. So regular practice of meditation will help. In fact, so I think the answer to the previous question also. So we from Pyramid Valley, but I am doing a 11-day breath by breath meditation course beginning July 21st to July 31st, which is like less than a week from now. So there we practice meditation. We teach a structured step-by-step meditation that addresses all these problems. So I think feeling sleepy is not a problem, because generally you feel fatigued and your body wants some rest. That is what it is. And then you said you went into some deep meditation for some time, but regular continuous practice of meditation and applying the tips and techniques that experienced meditators apply for the situations. Once you learn and start applying, you will be able to get deep into meditation.
My head keep moving when I go deep into meditation. Is that fine?
Yeah, so it's because of your energy movements, and you feel a bit of energy difference. Yes, it is fine, but over time it should die down. But the moment you realize that your head is moving, you can always bring it back to a conscious state. The whole idea is you need to be conscious. What happens is at some stages of meditation, you feel the whole body pulsating with energy, and your body likes moving with it. The only problem is once you start moving with it, you will get into that whole that whole traction, right? You'll start enjoying. It's almost like a ecstatic dance meditation. But to progress in breath meditation or mindfulness meditation, you'll have to become conscious and then bring your attention back to your breath. So the moment is fine, but over time, it should be reined in through bringing your attention back to your breath.
From your talk, we understood that thoughts are very important. Mind to matter, and the entire subject that we're talking about. Thoughts play an important role. So on one hand, we are told we should be aware of our thought. On the other hand, there's also these manifestation techniques when we seed some thoughts to manifest things in our life. So I mean, there is a dual things that, if you can just throw some light on these on this part.
Yeah. So we keep saying, you create your reality, right? Your consciousness creates your reality. Your level of consciousness creates your reality. So at certain level of consciousness, all your desires and intentions manifest, right? So for example, if you want to get a particular kind of job, right? At a certain level of consciousness, that will happen. But what is that level of consciousness? What is that level of energy that you need to have? It is not the level of consciousness that is seeded by lack, right? You are so direly wanting it. Without that, my life is bad. That means you're projecting a sense of lack into the consciousness. That's what they say. What you get, what you are, not you want, or not you think, right? So that you're so desperate to get the job. You are desperate to get the job that doesn't manifest, right? So that is where the thought, where is the desperation coming, right? So it's about the thought and the feeling. So as we control our thoughts, as we control our emotions, as we move into the positive territory, so we just release, okay, it would be good if I have that job, right? And then you leave it. I mean, all the manifestation techniques focus on that, so, right? So you generate positive feelings about the job and leave it. But the key thing is not getting attached to the outcome, right? So you continue doing whatever you're doing. So as you continue being at that level of consciousness, not thinking too much about whether you'll achieve it or not, automatically the universe, the one mind, the synchronicities continue to keep happening, right? It will take time. It is not that, yeah, I thought about it now and within 10 days it's going to happen. It will take time, because the universe, the consciousness is always there to help you. There's nothing like, there's no consciousness or universe out there, no God out there to punish it. It always does things in your better interest, in your best interest, right? So you probably might go attend the job you want, but it may not materialize. But there may be a better one given your other circumstances, right? So that is how it manifests, manifestation. So manifestation is always that, when you create a reality, you're supposed to be all powerful. When you are powerful, that means what I desire, I need to get, right? That is what manifestation theory happens. But how you do it is dependent on the state of your consciousness, which is what we saw today, right? Your thoughts and emotions, you need to be there. It's not just whether my thought or desire happens from a feeling of lack, or is it happening from a positive emotion, or is it good to have, nice to have, things like that. So it all depends on what we feel. So even for manifestation, thought and desire, thought and emotion is important. On the other hand, even if you don't feel, your desire, I want that particular job, but just by reining in your thoughts and emotions, you are in that empty state, you are in the present moment, you're aligned with your consciousness, then your consciousness manifests whatever is needed for you, whatever is good for you, whatever is right for you. So there's no need to explicitly manifest or desire something, because your desires automatically happen. And the other way, if you really need something, so you have the control. That is where free will happens, right? So you want that, but then you have to be ready to face the consequences of that. That will happen at that particular state of consciousness. On the other hand, you leave it to your consciousness to shape things for you. Maybe better things can happen, and things that really fulfill you will happen, right? So for both, the foundation is the right balance, right control of thoughts and emotions.
Thoughts and emotions, those are the two keywords. Thank you, sir. Akbar has posted a question. Excellent session, sir. Is soul and consciousness the same?
Yeah, pretty much. When you say consciousness or total consciousness, you can call it soul, you can call it self, you can call it divinity, you can call it God, whatever it is. Yes, I think it's a great terminology. When we talk about consciousness, total consciousness, it refers to the soul. And again, consciousness has different elements, right? You have the unity consciousness, oneness consciousness, you have the consciousness in your body. So yes, the answer, they both refer to the same.
Jyoti has posted one question. Thoughts are from mind and emotions are from heart. Am I right? So I replied yes. But then she has another thing like, electrical and magnetic signals.
And I think where the answer is, I think we say, right, thoughts are electric and feelings are magnetic, right? And that is why. So most of the feeling, if you look at it, is more heart-centric. And then I think even in our yogic marma science, right, the heart is one of the portals for energy. So we feel, and then some of them say heart is the seat of the soul, right? So we are connected to consciousness, universal consciousness through the heart. So yeah, heart is magnetic. And I think what was the question? Thoughts and thoughts are from mind. Yeah. So as we see, right, initially the initial findings or belief of neuroscientists was that thoughts were always from the brain, right? And then feelings were of the body. But thoughts, emotions, feelings, later they've discovered every cell has an intelligence. Every cell has a mind of its own. Every cell has its own, if you will, the brain cells, neurons, right? So the body, the mind, the thoughts, emotions, and feelings are throughout your body. Mind is not restricted to the brain. Your body is your mind. Your every cell has a mind of itself, right? So you can't distinguish. But again, yeah, feelings are magnetic. That's what they say. You attract what you are or what you feel, not what you think, right? Because thinking has an effect. Like today, we saw the chart how thinking ultimately translates to these hormones and neurochemicals, which allow you to feel differently. Similarly, feeling generates the appropriate. If you feel very miserable and distressed, automatically those kind of thoughts keep recurring. It's a cycle, and the moment we are conscious of it, we are ready to play.
Sir, thank you so very much. I mean, I don't have enough words to really express myself. This session has been so captivating and so amazing. I'm a fan of this topic, this book, and each time I hear you, I always take away a lot of learning, and that will keep continuing. And someday or the other, I'll definitely want to join the workshop that you usually conduct for the day one, day two, few days of workshop. So, on behalf of all the participants, I thank you very much for your time. I know you're so busy, and you still took time and share your time here for the session.
Wonderful.
Friends,
So before I hand off to you, so thanks, Sunil, and thanks to the entire IFSS team. I think the IFSS, the rejuvenated IFSS team, is doing a wonderful job. I know the entire team is so enthusiastic and energetic, right? I think ultimately the fundamental thing that proved that all spiritual science till that it empowers you a lot. And what we spoke from this book, I think this book empowers us a lot, saying that our reality is not in someone else's hand, right? And then it's in our hands. And I see, I mean, a lot of people, as well, I see you, I see Manisha, I see Balaji. So quite a lot of us, we know we've been creating our reality. We've been seeing the magic in our lives, and we've been grateful for it. We've been attracting a lot more of things. We're ever grateful for the science, for the wisdom of masters, and for this whole community for spreading this. Thank you very much, my dear friends. I hope it was useful. And then let's all always stay positive, be positive, and be conscious of our breath and consciousness. Thank you.
so see you all. Until then, have a nice time and have a nice weekend. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you.